Simon Davis with It's a Fencer's Life, Lessons from the Trenches.
Today's episode is the 4 Ps of business, and I want to elaborate on what we were talking about in the last podcast with the beautiful Katie, Profit First for Tradies, and we've designed it for specifically for fences and the way I'm using things now. So I wanted to show you how I've done all this by sort of putting a bit of a drawing together for you, and we can sort of go from there. So please bear with me. It's the first time I've done this, and trying to share my screen at the same time is a little bit awkward for me, but I want to get through this as quickly as possible and as painless for you as possible, so I don't want to bore you to death. But if I share my screen here and we'll have a look at what's going on here, this is something that the 4 Ps in your fencing business will look like. So the 4 Ps, firstly, we got profit, and then we got plant, the people, and your product. Now, the big thing with this is you can put others in there, but I'm just trying to make this very simple. I've worked my business based on this management system for the last 20 years, and it works well for me. By implementing the cash management system into this as well, you'll get a better understanding of where it is. So I want to work out how I used to do it, but first I want to preface this. If your plant, if you quote a job per se, and your plant costs you a certain amount of money, your people cost you a certain amount of money, and of course your product costs you a certain amount of money, and it's capped, then your profit will be a safe bet. What I see time and time again, and it's happened to me on countless occasions, that we've allocated plant money, or we haven't allocated plant money, we have a breakdown or something like that, and the money has to then come out of that job. If I'm on a job and it's I break a hose or whatever, and I have to get specialists out to come and fix it, or a mechanic or something like that, the money, if it's not allocated here in this plant section or being put away somewhere else, then the only place it can come out of, you can't squeeze it out of the people budget, you can't squeeze it out of the product budget, you have to shrink your profit budget. Okay, and this is where we seem to go all the time with, the amount of fences I talk to, the amount of tradies I talk to who get to the end of the quarter and haven't got GST put aside, haven't got tax put aside, and, are living off credit all the time because they're running accounts and they're not getting their cash flow correct. It's phenomenal. It's I talk to so many people out there, and Katie will attest to this, the traders she's talked to as well. There's so many businesses out there running, if I can say ask about face, and I did this for the best part of 15 years as well. And what ultimately happens is when you run out of credit and you have got credit cards or you have overdrafts and you run out of cash flow there, then you start to use your own personal money, and then that gets tight, and then you sort of get backed against the wall. If something happens, you tip over, and that's exactly what happened to me. I got hammered on a big job, and my cash flow dried up over a number of years, and because of that, I had to shut my company down, and it wasn't a very pretty picture, I can tell you. But this is how the system basically works, and this is how I want to show you how we used to do it in the way I used to do it in the old days. So basically, if we're just going to work on a basic system of a small job that costs $5,000. Now, I want to preface this again by saying this is not the ordinary. Each job changes dramatically. From day to day, from week to week. Now, this might be a one-off job. You may be a small operator that this is a a week's work for you. You may be a small operator that this is only a 2-day job. You could be a large company where you have multiple of these jobs going with multiple teams going. So it all changes around, but the scenario is basically the same. You only have the 4 things in that can you can choose to budget your money for. And if you can budget your money onto these systems, it works in a lot better. Now, I want to, you could call this here on this side here, you could also call, just get this up here, you could also call this plant, you could have repairs, you could have another account for new equipment, you can call your people down here. Keep that nice and still, please. You could call your people down here on this side. You could have them known as, you could have contractors. You could have staff. You get the picture. The plant, basically, you could even call this, I don't want to confuse you too much, but you could call this your operating expenses tab, if you like. We'll just put that up there as well, just to make it interesting. Operating expenses. Now, I want to put this into a sort of bubble, so we get a good idea, and you can work it out, as I said, whether you're a small sole contractor or you've got a team, you can work it out. But say we're doing a timber fence, colorbond fence, and it's the sales job is $5,000. Now these are all XGST, okay? Oh, I want that. To go X. I'm not sure why this is happening here. Hit the wrong button again. But yeah, XGST on the sales. So a small job, $5,000. It's as I said, it's XGST. There you go. Okay. So what we work out, if you want a 35% profit, for example, on this job, that calculates to $1,750. Now that may be something that you set out to get, but if for the whole purposes of this this scenario, we'll work on this. It's $1,750. So that leaves your cost of goods at $3,250. Okay, so that's just your $5,000 minus your profit is $3,250. Now, as I said, grab that $1,750, push it aside, forget about it, put it in another account somewhere so it's gone. Okay, what I find happens is then you'll get down to your business end and things will happen, and you'll have your materials will say they're 50% of the job, so they're 50% of the $3,250, which is $1,625, and then out of that, plant might be another percentage, or I've worked it out this way: is your people might be a 2-day job. You're a sole trader. You're paying yourself $500 a day or whatever. So there's $1,000 that's been charged out. So that works out at $2,625 left over. So $3,250 your cost of goods minus your $2,625 leaves $625 left over, and that could go for your plant or your OPEX account, if you want to call it that. operating expenses account. Okay, so that just is a rule of thumb. Just makes it a little bit easier to work on. And the problem that I found when I used to run this system before was, as I said, if this blew out, for example, the materials blew out because we needed extra concrete or things like that, and there wasn't enough here in the plant or the operating expenses to cover it, I used to have to get it from somewhere. It might be the job was a 2-day job. Now all of a sudden it turned into a 3-day job. So there's an extra $500 in here you have to pay for somebody. So you have to find where that comes from. And generally the only place it can come is out of your profit, right? So then your profit shrinks. Okay, so this is where, as a fencer and as a tradie that I've been doing all my life, I've done the same thing. I get to tax time, I get to the BAS time, the quarterly BASs, and there was never enough money left over because I wasn't managing the cash flow correctly, and I didn't have a good business model. So the problem was, even when we were earning good money, it was filling gaps and paying off old debt all the time, and we just could never seem to sort of get ahead. So as the business grew, it put a lot of pressure on the systems that I had, and as soon as that started to happen, the systems that were pretty much non-existent, not getting enforced, caused the business to implode, and then we couldn't recover from it. So I want to show you what Katie has done for me, and this is based off my business now. My business is North Coast Fencing. I'm still operating as a fencing business, and this works so well for me that now I have money left over all the time. Everything's allocated, and it is such a great system for me. So we'll just be back in a sec. I'll just pull that up, and we'll get that going for you. So we'll just go to a break for a sec.
Stay with us. The Fencer's Life podcast will be right back.
And where is that one?
Welcome back to the Fencer's Life podcast.
Okay, we're back again, and we're just waiting for this to load up. Here it comes. So this is what I've set up with Katie, and it's worked on a percentage-based system. So as you can see, we have our income account, we have GC, we have materials and subs, we have a profit, we have our owner's comp, which is where my drawings come from. We have tax, we have our OPEX account, our operating account. And as I said, I've set this up into 3 different accounts, and one for equipment repairs and maintenance, one for replacement, so buying new machinery if you want to buy new machinery. And then I have a farm one as well because I run the farm through the business as well. Then we have a vault account, which is basically a rainy day account that I just automatically set these to $50, $100, $200, whatever you can afford. I've set up through the banks. So the main accounts I work out is I have one big income account. So all my deposits and all my income, any payment that comes into the business comes into this account and sits there. From that, I farm it out into the various accounts here. So any deposit that comes into my income account, I automatically throw it into my GST account. So it's 10% every time, which is, you can say to yourself, okay, if you divide it by the 1.1 and then you've got materials versus labour, how much, and you actually paying in GST, and it always averages itself out. So by putting 10%, which is your GST straight away, I'm always over what I need to be. And that mindset shift on its own for me has saved my bacon so many times, because I'm paying a lot of GST, all the time. And remember, the GST account, guys, and the tax account is not your money, so you can't dip into it. So this was a big mind shift, or a mindset shift that I had to play in my own head, because I had this money sitting there, and I kept robbing those accounts all the time to pay Peter, to pay Paul, and it wasn't working in my favour in the end, because you're always chasing the 8 ball. And as I said, I run everything off credit, so it brought me unstuck. So now I don't have any 30-day accounts. I don't sign any director's guarantees. And I was talking to, just a side note on that, I was talking to a friend of mine who had a business in Sydney. Very, very smart fella, very wealthy fella, and never had a director's guarantee in his life. And he found it very absurd when I mentioned to him that's how a lot of us blokes, fencers, tradies run. We have credit. We have to buy stuff on credit all the time. And because of that, we have to sign a director's guarantee, which then, as I said, basically puts a noose around your neck. So if you're doing company structures and partnerships and sole traders, and then you sign a director's guarantee, one of the reasons why a lot of people wanted us to go into companies early on in the 90s and early 2000s was to have that safeguard. But as soon as you sign a director's guarantee, you void that safeguard anyway. So different conversation for another day. But coming back to this management system, and as I said, I wanted to show you how this works. So as I said, we've got a $5,000 job. We've put it in there. We've got the $500 deposit. It's already gone into the GST account, and then we work out what our subs are and our profit and owner's common tax and blah, blah, blah. How we do that is by coming over to a allocation calculator that Katie has set up for me. Now, to do this, I had to hire Katie to come into my business, work out where all my money was going, work out what was actually happening in my business, and work out how things were moving around. So if we go back to that, back to the screenshot I had here, and we had the $32.50 for materials, plant, and people off that 5,000. So if we're working at 16.25 plus our people for 2 days, so 26.25, and then we can push that back over here. So we've got 26.25. So what I've done is put 5,000 in the amount up here, put 26.25 down in here. So that leaves us a real revenue of 23.25. So if you can see that there, how that's working off that system is basically then split up into percentages. So the caps are where we are now. The target is here. That's our targets. That's what we should be doing. And when I first started with Katie, this was how my profit, basically, my calculator looked. Where are we? 3%, I think it was. Yeah. So looking at that, this is how I was running my business. And you've got to basically crawl before you can walk. So it is a process of how you can get there. But if you're starting out and you're behind the 8 ball all the time, you've got a lot of debt, taking a huge profit of 20% is not going to work for you. If you can just take 1% and you can put it aside, and everything that comes into the business you are allocating correctly, then things will work out so much more better for you. Now, this is, as I say, was what was happening in my business. So the real revenue, the straight away, that 26.25 covers off my materials, covers off my people, so I can already pay them, and I can already pay for the gear. So what I would do out of that, the GST's already been allocated, so it just goes from the income account straight to the GST account. Gone, done. It's already done. So I've written it down like this. It goes from 1 to 2. The materials and the people, 1 to 3. So it goes from the income account, 26.25 goes farmed out straight into that materials account. Okay, so that has made such a big difference straight away, because these two things are the ones that were hammering me every week or every 3 months, how can I pay this and how can I pay that? And hang on, I've got a bill that's coming up and I can't pay it. I had to change my model around, my business model around, to accommodate these. And now, as I said, I use my clients' money. I don't use my own money. So if the deposit comes in, it goes into the GST account. I then ask for all my materials payments, which has a profit margin built into that already, using my quoting system. I then take that. So if I've got a certain amount, I can ask for a certain amount of money. I can ask for off the client straight away. I can say, right, out of that 5,000, I want $3,000 to come in, and I know that 3,000 has come in. There's 26 of that has to go somewhere else, and you leave the rest sitting in there. So by the time I get fully paid, this is our full revenue. Okay, $2,375. Now, if you put $23.75 away into a profit account, $1,140 goes away into the owner's account. The tax, $71 of tax gets put away. And the operating expenses, another $1,140. Now, for the first couple of months, I had to run this system like exactly the way that was. And what it helped me do was get on top of things rather quickly. It helped me identify that I had a hole somewhere in my business model that needed fixing quite quickly. It then turned around and showed me that there was some profit in the business that I could bring back out and utilize, which basically is, when I mean utilize, I mean I could see that the profit was building. And straight away, rather than checking bank accounts every day and seeing where I was, whatever, I now check 2 accounts. I check my OPEX account and I check my materials account. That's the only 2 accounts I check, and I check my income account to see when money has come in. So what I've done now, moving forward, I can sit here and comfortably say I can do this and look at the difference. Now I've caught up with things. I'm now banking $475 out of that profit, out of that real revenue. Okay, so out of that, on my other spreadsheet, I had $1,700 of profit. And you go, well, how can I operate the business if all these other things aren't coming out? And that's what was happening. I had no money left over because I was taking too much profit out, putting it aside, and then not having enough money to pay myself, not having enough money to pay the bills or the utilities or the overheads. I didn't know where my average dollar sale was and things like that. So these things now come out second nature. So profit, $475, goes into the profit account. It just sits there. The owner's pay, $712, comes out of that, goes into the owner's pay account. The tax, it gets sorted. $475 goes away and put into a tax account. Now, that's not GST, that's your income tax for the year. Your OPEX account, $712 comes out of that. Now, out of that OPEX account, now this is, as I said, a one-off job per se. It could be a weekly job. It could be a job that you knock over in 2 days for yourself. So you've got another one backed up again. If you then look at that and you want to have a drawing of $1,000 a week for yourself or whatever, and you go, well, shit, that's not enough. There's only $712 there. How do I get more money up here or here in your real revenue? How do I get more money to make that 30% of my owner's pay get to that $1,000? Now, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can work on your margins. You can make sure your margins are a correct amount. That will give you that. You can chase the jobs that will give you that margin, which means then you have to hone in on your niche and on your target market. You can work on your branding and your marketing to get your name out there so you can do more work, or even if you can't change your niche or change your target market and you can't change your profit, well, that means you need to do more work. So you need to get more of these jobs to suit, okay, if that makes sense. So that's how the system actually works. As I said, you need to have Katie come in and work the numbers for you in your business to see where you actually are at this stage. You need to have a look. The hardest part of this, I suppose, for me was going to the banks, getting the time to go to the banks and set things up and work all this out. But now, as I said, what I've found is because of that money system that I have moving now and into the OPEX account, even that goes in every week, and I do my allocations every Friday. So I sit down every Friday, I work out what money's in that income account, I work out how much money I owe for materials that are coming up, or to purchase a job. So if somebody has paid me on that $5,000 job, for example, they've already paid me $3,200 in materials, and I know it's only $2,600. Let's put aside, I'll pay for those materials. I'll get that sorted straight away. So then I'll work out what's left, allocate my money. I still push extras. Still a little bit of thought process that you have to think about yourself of what's coming forward. So you need to know your sort of budgets and a bit of cash flow. You got Rego coming up, or you next week we're not going to get a pay because we won't finish that job in on time. So you need to sort of allocate enough money in the materials and subs and contractors and your OPEX account to keep you rolling forward. Now, the goal for this is that as your money keeps coming in, as I said, it'll be tight for the first little bit, but as your money keeps coming in, your operating expenses will grow to probably more than what you're using. Your materials and subbies will grow to more than what you're using. Your owner's comp will grow to more than what you're needing each week. Your profit will grow automatically. You'll have money for your tax and you'll have money for your GST. Now, as I put the money into my OPEX, what I have done is I have set a rule in the banks that I use that every week on a Friday, can be whatever it can be $10, can be $1,000, can be $50, it can be whatever you afford to do. I have an automatic transfer going from this account, the OPEX, into equipment, into replacement, into my farm account, and into my vault. So these 4 accounts are building naturally on themselves. So if I do happen to have a breakdown in a machine like I did the other day, and I had to go and spend a couple of $100 on hoses and fittings, it comes, when I paid for it come out of the equipment repairs and maintenance. I have a debit card for my OPEX. That's the only card I use. I don't have any other cards for any of this stuff. Just have one card from here, and all the rest is done online. So I can just transfer it all over. It has saved me so much time in reconciliation because now this is very, very easy to do. This one is very, very easy to do. And all you'll see is transfers from 1 dash to 2 or 1 dash to 3 or 1 dash to 4. And it's methodical and it's so easy and it's so quick to reconcile. The only one that I do struggle with every now and then is the OPEX because, as I said, there could be fuel, there could be everything else. You could even have out of that OPEX account, you could change that and have 7.0 have a fuel account. So all your money gets allocated each week. You stick $100 or $100, $200, and you might need more than that. You might have running trucks and tractors and things like that. You might need to have that up pretty high. So then your OPEX account might be high. But these are the things that has made such a massive difference in my business, and it has worked so well that now I can have time off when I need to. I have money sitting in my profit account that I can actually go and do something. And I have been asked this question before: is why have a profit account? Why not just have your owner's account? And the differentiation for me is I'm going to get this owner's comp, my drawings, week in, week out, no matter what happens in the business, okay? So I'm still going to get paid whether I go to work for somebody else or I go and work for myself. The difference is with the profit, if I'm going to work for myself, this is basically the cream on the cake, the bonus that I get for having a business, running my own business, other than all the tax implications and all the other scenarios and benefits that you get from having a business, along with the stress and the downside of having a business. That on its own, that profit account is basically now the icing on the cake. It's a cream. It's that I can afford to go on a holiday now and go, right, I'm going to take that out and I'm going to go off to Bali or to Indonesia or to USA or whatever I want to do. There's money to do that. And I said to Katie this, and I'm dead set serious about this. When this was introduced to me, I was flabbergasted. Why haven't we been taught this system in our education, schooling and things like that? This is such a basic system. And when it was shown to me, I went, it can't work. It's so simple, it can't work. But with persistence, and it's like everything in business, it is methodical, it is persistent, it is consistency. If you do these things, your business will grow, you will have money at the end of the day, and you can choose to do with whatever you want. You can choose to take that profit and, people say, well, I've got all this profit, I'm going to buy a new boat, or not a new boat, I'm going to buy a new machine. Well, if you're doing that and you're pushing it back into your business all the time, and that's what I was doing, I was pushing any bit of profit I had, any bit of spare money, used to just sit in the business. And I just used to take my owners. And it was like, I'm paying all these people to come and work for me, and most of them are getting more than what I'm getting. And I've got all the stress and the pressure and the liabilities. And what the hell for? Now I see. It's like a light bulb moment. And it's, if I was doing this 20 years ago, and this is for you new starters coming up, if you're not setting it up this way, you're possibly looking at down the barrel of, getting 10 years down the track and working, or 20 years down the track and working your guts out and having nothing for it at the end of the day. Yes, you can live comfortably fencing, very comfortably fencing. You can make a quid, like my old man always used to say, you can live comfortably, we raised the kids, we paid a mortgage, but all he ever did was take a wage. There's nothing my parents lived so frugally that it was ridiculous at times. And I know at times it was different, but this is like putting money in a jar and having all these jars sitting up on your shelf, and every time money comes in, you're putting money inside each jar. So when the tax man comes knocking for his GST or for his tax, you go and pull it off the shelf and pull the jar and you can go and pay for it. And that's great. This is so as I said, it's so simple. But anyway, that's where I want to stop it for today. I do want to, as I said, wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for supporting me and following me on A Fencer's Life, Lessons from the Trenches, and also on our Facebook group, The Fence Post. And there's if you want to reach out, you want to know more, you want to learn more, please reach out to me on Messenger. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening, and stay safe.
Thanks again for listening to the Fencer's Life podcast. Be sure to follow on Twitter, Instagram, or the free Facebook group, The Fence Posts. And of course, Simon's personal Facebook, facebook.com/Simon M. Davis 1. And also check out Spotify to get weekly episodes. If you believe Simon can help you make a difference in your fencing business, please reach out to him on Messenger or visit his coaching mentoring site at theprofitablefencer.com. Until then, stay safe and happy fencing.